then you get into college and you get into some of the business fraternities and things like that, and you start to realize relationships matter. And I didn't really realize that until I started really working to get out of college. And then those relationships really gave me the confidence coming out of college, interviewing for a career in public accounting. I would really say my communication skills and the relationships were really like instrumental. Yeah. They were key for me because nobody in my family gone to college.
Right.
I didn't know how to talk to business people or what it was like, but I learned real quick.
Welcome to Beyond the Ledger, real conversations with people driving business forward. I'm Troy Ashby, CPA and host. Each episode, we unpack stories, challenges, and insights from today's top accounting and finance leaders. This podcast is brought to you by my friends over at MarketScale. Welcome back to Beyond the Ledger. Today's guest is Felix Lozano. Felix spent nearly 4 decades in public accounting, including 27 years at Whitley Penn, where he retired as the Chief Growth Officer and former Director of Audit. He built a career rooted in relationships, leadership, and growth. Deeply committed to philanthropy and believes true success is measured by impact. He brings a thoughtful, faith-forward perspective to leadership, relationships, and life, and somebody I like to call a dear friend. Felix.
Thank you, Troy.
Man, it's so good to see you.
You too. Good to be here.
We have tried to get this on the books for maybe as long as I've had the podcast.
Not as long as I've been in retirement, but for a while, for sure.
I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
I've known you well over a decade, probably closer to 15 years. Yeah. I know a lot of people in the market respect you and the way that you do things, but I think you have a lot to offer, not only the community that you have, but my accounting audience as well. So, yeah. But before we dig in,
sure.
What is something that people can't see about you looking at your LinkedIn that makes you who you are?
Yeah, I think the thing that's hard for people to see about me outside the career is I'm super passionate about community. I'm super passionate about giving back. And in your career, when you're so dedicated to all the things that come with running a firm, a department, a practice with high growth, you don't get a chance to do too much of that. It's little pieces here and there, but it's become a big part of my life. Probably the last 4 or 5 years before I even retired, I started to really consume what that meant. Mm-hmm. And that's a big part of me that I know that people don't know. Yeah,
you're right. It's funny. I think there are so many leaders that give back that you don't see. Yeah. And it's selfless because it does take more time. But one of the first things I remember before I knew you that well is I remember I was sitting on the Richardson YMCA board, and we had the annual meeting, and there's Felix up on stage. I think you were passing the baton or something, and correct. I was like, one example of something he's doing behind the scenes.
Troy, that's interesting you bring up that example, because this April 16th will mark 31 years I've been associated with Y.
Amazing. 31
years, and it'll be a special night this coming April 16th for me. I'll step away as past chairman. I kind of step away because of the governor's requirements. But looking back over 31 years, it was interesting some of the tidbits they pulled out. I'm really the only person who ever chaired the Fort Worth YMCA and the Dallas YMCA.
Oh, wow.
Which I would have never thought that have been in the deck of cards for me when I said yes in 1994 to join the Fort Worth Y. It's been a very rewarding 31 years.
Yeah.
Almost as long as my career.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Just goes to show that, investing both personally and professionally, it can coincide. And I know you will talk about this, but let's just go ahead and dive into it. You talk a lot about it's relationships, yes. Almost more so than skills. And I'm guessing some of these board seats have kind of factored into that, but tell everybody a little bit about that.
Yeah, from a relational perspective, this became a part of me early on, just watching my father with the relationships he built. Now, Dad didn't go to college, but Dad was a wonderful salesman, car salesman, used car salesman. And the relationships he built at that time on the west side of Fort Worth, he used his second language, his English, his first language was Spanish, but then he dovetailed to that. And I just saw the relationships he built with everyday people who really needed a car to get somewhere. Then, as I made my way working early on in my college career, it was a career, it took me 7 years, but I realized all the relationships that got me to that point to get to college, the two gentlemen who believed in me. And it's always validating and rewarding when somebody else sees something in you that you don't even see in yourself. One gentleman said, "You're really good at communicating." The other gentleman said, "You're really good with numbers. And I really think you'd be a great CPA." I had no idea what a CPA was. I'm just trying to figure out what I want to do in college. Then you get into college and you get into some of the business fraternities and things like that, and you start to realize relationships matter. And I didn't really realize that until I started really working to get out of college. My most favorite experience of working, other than my career, was valeting cars. You get to talk to people about their car briefly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know what nice cars were until I started valeting at Hyatt Regency in Fort Worth. And you get to meet these people. Why are they there? How long will they be there? When do they want their car back? And then you move to a different relational perspective in that business, which is you get invited to be the bellman inside the hotel. So I would go from outside to inside. Again, the general manager said, "God, you have really good communication skills. People seem to just trust you. Why don't you come inside and run the bell stand?" Now you're taking their luggage up. Now you're getting specific directions from them as to what their preferences are, what restaurants should they go to. And then those relationships really gave me the confidence coming out of college interviewing for a career in public accounting. I would really say my communication skills and the relationships were really like instrumental.
Yeah.
They were key for me because nobody in my family had gone to college.
Right.
I didn't know how to talk to business people or what it was like, but I learned real quick through the Hyatt Regency and selling clothes.
Yeah.
And relationships were just foundational early on.
It's amazing. I learned something new I've known you for a long time. I learned something new every time. I didn't realize you were a first generation college grad.
Yeah.
So am I.
Congrats.
And went through some of the same things.
Yeah.
I'm going to college. What am I going to do? What am I going to major? I remember jumping on the green screen computer trying to figure it out and asking people and, kind of stumbling along and joined a fraternity. Actually, that fraternity was great. I learned all kinds of ways to communicate, just trying to navigate the world. But then I found Beta Alpha Psi in accounting.
Definitely.
But the thing that I learned from my parents, small business owners, and the thing that they did different is when people came into their antique mall, they knew them by name. Yeah. They greeted them. They were coming in to shop just as much as they were to hang out with my parents. And that's when it clicked to me that, people, they're your army, right?
Yeah. Those early, for me, Troy, selling clothes on the west side of Fort Worth, we got a huge reunion coming up for Henry's in May. This was an old clothier, and Henry Lusky knew it. But with the clothes and the cars and the valet and the bellman, you learned real quick how to anticipate what people wanted. And as long as you listened and you had that familiarity, returning clients coming back to the Hyatt, once you start to anticipate, man, your credibility goes through the roof.
Yeah.
Quickly, and trust builds fast. And then it goes to the next level. The credibility, the trust, and then it's, okay, the communication. You start to refine your communication based on who they are, what they're doing, how they got to where they're at, and you're able to have a little bit more intimate communication with some of these people. And
sure.
Those are huge insights for me at a young age.
Yeah.
That I was able to leverage later on.
That's pretty awesome. So then fast forward, and you spent almost 4 decades in public accounting, rose to chief growth officer at Whitley Penn. And we could spend all kinds of time talking about public accounting, but I think there's so much more life beyond what you've done. And this is about beyond the ledger. So very driven. I would say you're probably an achiever if I was to give you in a test. But there was a moment for you that was, and I remember your kids ended up kind of giving you like the talk or whatever. But talk to me about there. And I'm not going to overshare because you get a chance to share. Like something happened and you kind of had a shift in perspective.
Yeah, I was really big the last decade. I was really into me and golf and road biking. I really enjoyed those sports a lot, and I was really taking a lot of time for me. My kids were in college, very close to getting out, and so I was at home alone for the most part, and really enjoyed my time with me. And then I was preparing for a long century ride, the Hotter Than Hell, and I was probably 80 miles into a ride, and something terrible happened. It's a road I'd been on all the time, and I didn't see something, and ended up waking up on the ground with a broken collarbone. And thank goodness there was no cars in the road. I was able to pull myself out of the road with my bike and just sit there and just let my body heal and just let the shock wear off so I could realize, okay, what do I do now? Long story short, I get the surgery. I was really fearful about telling my children because you don't want your children to worry about you.
Yeah.
Right?
Are they in town?
They were both in college. Gabe was in Boulder,
Okay.
Mercedes was at OU. And I just didn't want to call them and tell them I didn't want them to worry about Dad. But I had to. And sure enough, about a week later, I think they both talked together and said, we need to tell Dad it's time. You're spending too much time on you. And maybe this is a sign that God's telling you, slow down. Let's figure out what purpose really means because you're missing the mark. And sure enough, at the Y, I was at a board meeting 2 weeks later. And this was COVID had just started. We're in August. COVID had just kicked off in May. And the YMCA Park South was doing a ton of food distribution, needed food distribution in South Dallas. And they said, we're looking for volunteers. We don't have enough hands to hand out all the food we're doing. And they were serving 350 cars every Saturday.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there with one bum arm. And I said, sure, I can help. And those Saturdays changed my life, being able to really put yourself aside and put others first. And the friendships I made at the Y, the food, Autumn and I even went a little further. I'm not big on trash. I mean, people who know me know there's something in the street. If I'm walking, I'm probably going to pick it up and throw it away as soon as I can. So we started cleaning up a 4-block area in South Dallas. And at first, I think the people in South Dallas were very curious as to, okay, what are you doing? Why are you walking around my street with a bag? And then I think that curiosity changed to, all right, well, you're here every week, so something's going on. And then that one step further where people would come out and say, hey, thank you. And then they'd even come out further and offer us a bottle of water. It was hot.
Yeah.
And we did it year round, a little over 2 years. But it was rewarding. I'm really big on, I really think everybody deserves dignity, regardless of your station in life. What I loved about the Park South Y is we would offer showers every Saturday morning to the homeless and a meal. And those were just small things they did, but, I realized these are Saturdays. These are people's Saturdays.
Yeah.
Totally different than my Saturdays. And that wake-up call from my kids was what I needed. And now I'm an achiever, and that Hotter Than Hell was really important to me. But I enjoyed riding it. My best time ever was 6 hours and 5-10 minutes. The last year I did in 5 hours and 28 minutes. I didn't give up the road biking.
Yeah.
I just put it on a different time. Saturdays belong to somebody else.
Right.
So I found a way to work around that. But that really opened my eyes. I think that prepared me for retirement as to what my retirement was really supposed to be about.
So is that 3 or 4 years before retirement?
Yeah.
If I'm looking at the timing.
Yeah.
So you were broke physically, and maybe you said that you were. What'd you say? You said went from me to them.
To them.
Yeah.
To others.
It's beautiful.
And you know this as well. You need to become less so he can become more. And I thank my kids for that every day. And that's what I want them to see about life, right?
Sure.
I mean, you need them to, there's a balance to all this. We're all fortunate, but man, Saturdays for a lot of people are different.
Yeah.
And now my Saturdays are different too.
Yeah.
So I'm thankful for that.
It's funny because I can hear it in your voice. Your heart's more full.
Yeah.
Gave you a little bit more purpose. You're not taking the trophies of all the things that you've accomplished up to heaven, right?
Right. Right.
But you're making a big difference.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And you've always been a steward, right? We've talked about that. You've always found these other ways, but this was more hands-on. This was more work, more in the trenches, and actually with little to no recognition, right?
Right.
And that's the difference.
And that's the favorite part to me, which is like you opened up. What would people not know about me?
Yeah.
And Troy, those moments have just catapulted into a variety of other philanthropic, creating safety water dispensers in Guatemala and Peru, to medical mission trips in Uganda, which is still by far one of my favorite experiences, being able to change a man's life. A hernia surgery. I'm not a doctor.
Right.
But I was able to work with a doctor one-on-one and change this man's life. And I don't think you can do that here in the U.S. legally.
Probably not.
But in Uganda,
probably don't want to try.
Yeah, but in Uganda with skilled doctors in the middle of nowhere, you've got a man's life, and you just say yes.
Yeah.
And put your faith in it.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that story. I was hoping you would be able to share that, because I think sometimes we are all in it just for ourselves, and there's
nothing wrong.
There's nothing wrong with it. That's the hard thing but that balance and that part of your story I think will resonate with some that might be listening, saying maybe I do need to, maybe just slow down.
I think that's the biggest part is, look, everybody deserves to be successful, and everybody deserves an opportunity. It's just, how do you find the humility in that, along with remembering others?
Mm-hmm.
And, in that career, I mean, it's a high-pressure career. Public accounting is demanding.
Yep.
And I admire everybody in that field, because you give a lot. It also takes a lot from you.
Sure.
And so what I admire is the people who are able to step back a little bit and find a healthy balance.
And, not everybody stays as long as you did. So, I mean, one, stayed in public, but two, to the extent that you did, you were fully invested. Yeah. We had shared some notes prior, and feel free to talk about other things that maybe you feel like talking about. But you said something that I think all of us are thinking, but maybe not all of us are saying, is, we are 6 years now past COVID, and the changes that have happened, right, wrong, or indifferent, being still in a somewhat hybrid or more flexible arrangement, but what that means to this. And I'll just focus on the accounting world, because that's the space that we're both in. But what that means to this future generation, or even the ones that are 3 years in right now. Yeah. And your opinions on kind of what they can do. Yeah, that's it's a big topic. Even today, I still do recruiting, Troy. I still recruit for my firm. I get a lot of people asking me, and so I try to meet with the candidates before I refer them over to Whitley Penn. Mm-hmm. You kind of want to put them through a little bit of an acid test, right? Sure. Communication, presence, significance. Are they really sure? Do they know what they want, what they're getting into? And you can tell on the communication side. I can tell really quickly who has done their homework to understand how important communication is, particularly when you go into an interview. But I think the communication side of things, coming out of COVID and being present, not being present, I'm a real strong believer in relationships. And relationships happen in a couple of different ways. One, there's got to be some sense of communication. There's got to be some sense of proximity, and there's got to be some commonality, okay, for a relationship to happen. Think about your own relationships. If those three things are present, then honest communication can really thrive. Yeah. And a relationship can be strong. And I think for the generations getting out the last 3 years and being confined and not being able to commune and have that interaction with people, I think it's just harder. I saw it even with my own daughter and with my son, Yeah. Gabe enjoyed working remotely. Now, Gabe is a little bit opposite than me. Not so much outgoing, but he's more of a really detailed. He's the one everybody loves, detail, and gets the stuff done, the complicated stuff. Mercedes is like me, so she likes to get out and really interface. And so when COVID happened, it was really hard on Mercedes, like it was on me, to be cooped up and not be around people. Gabe thrived. Yeah, he really loved it and grew. But so I can see how on their communication styles, Mercy kept craving it and wanting it, just like me. I needed to find a way to make it happen versus trying to hide from it or enjoy the ability to be gone. Yeah.
So I think it's just different. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that, Troy.
Yeah.
It's a hard one.
There is no answer, but I often tell those, even when they get the hybrid opportunities, to still come in one more day, because what you can learn from your supervisor, from your peers, that tribe around you, you can only grow so much if you aren't spending that time. Proximity is the word that you used.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you can't.
Yeah.
But you're also going to get the nod faster.
Right.
You should be ramping faster. I
Totally
don't
agree.
think anybody could prove me wrong on that.
Yep.
But it is nice to have the flexibility.
But, also just being present, being
Yeah.
where your feet are at and having other people just have the opportunity, just getting the chance to say yes to an invite
Yeah.
can change the total trajectory of your career, because you don't know what that meeting is going to present to you. You don't know what your partner, supervisor, or leader is going to think of you. You got to give them the chance to offer an opportunity for an invitation to say yes.
Right. I always think about, I didn't spend as long as you did in public accounting. I think 1/13 of the time.
Yeah.
But I always think about when I transferred from Oklahoma City to Dallas and, came in and was unassigned. I was EY at the time. I was knock on every door that was open for work.
Yeah.
Back to relationships, though. Guess what? I kept showing up where some of the others were sitting in the Cube City waiting, and I was like, I can't wait. You're right. I can't wait. I'm knocking and getting work done, and quickly started getting put on projects, maybe some that I didn't want to be on.
Yeah.
But what does that look like today when you're unassigned, and now what?
Yeah, there's not too many places to hide today. What I really enjoyed in my time was we had a strong culture. If you're unassigned, go look for work.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to find you. Come find me. It gets back to that open door policy, is overused as that term is. You want people to be able to feel like they can walk into your office and say, hey, I need something to do. Or, hey, how are you? Those were very rewarding moments. And again, you're giving someone an opportunity to offer you an invitation to do something different. And there's always something to do. Now, it may not be chargeable, but I could always find a way for you to help me. And if you're working with me, if I'm doing my job correctly, I can maybe impart a little bit of knowledge, maybe a little bit of wisdom, maybe show you something you don't know. But my goal is to try to help you somewhere along the line, professionally and personally.
Yeah.
I will if we have a relationship.
That's right.
Come into my office.
Which proximity helps. All right. So you are 2 years retired. How long have you been retired?
2 years and 3 months.
All right. Not that we're keeping track, but talk to me about what that's looked like from the jump.
Yeah.
Challenges maybe as an achiever, but then I think you mentioned phases of it and what you're in now, but I'd love for people to hear. Maybe we can all aspire to Felix's retirement plan.
The jump. So I made it a point. I always told myself, when I retire and when I leave, I leave. There's no hanging on with an email. There's no hanging on with, consultations or this or that. When I leave, I leave. I turned down a lot of opportunities. And the way I did that was I said, I need 1 month just to get away from the world I know. So I left for a month. And when I got back, I said, these are the things on Felix's bucket list that are really important. And a lot of them had to do with travel and experiences. So I kept myself on the jump. Year one, I think I was only home 120 days. So I fulfilled that. After the jump, what I started to realize was, golly, I have time for me finally. And as an achiever, 2 things that are really important for Felix, other than, your faith and your family, the philanthropy, taking care of me. I'm a CEO of me.
Mm-hmm.
And I get to decide what content I take in, what food I take in, and how I use an output to keep my body happy and healthy. And so as the CEO of me, I think I told you earlier, I dropped all social media. I couldn't decide how it was helping me in any of those areas. I do miss the educational component of it. So every now and then I'll go there when I need to know something that I can't find, or I'm curious. And then the healthy aspect of it. Troy, I will tell you, I've learned to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep, and I can tell when I don't.
Mm.
And it's really interesting. For so many years, you live in 5 and 6. You've been there.
Yep.
And as a business owner, you probably still have those nights because it happens, right?
Yep.
You're responsible for a lot. So I was able to take in the healthy aspect, the eating aspect, and all the while, even through all those travels, and even to this day, Autumn and I still find time to do 2 or 3 missions a year, whether it's the clean water well dispensaries or it's the medical mission trips. And even closer to home, man, I love the Y and the State Fair of Texas, the education component we offer there. UT Southwestern has been a blessing to get to know and learn what's going on in the educational side of healthcare, and all the wonderful research we're doing there, and the new partnerships we're building, and the new building we're building. So the philanthropy part, I can be really intentional now.
Yeah.
Which I didn't have time to before.
How does that, you're the busiest retired person I know, but it's on your time, right?
Right.
How does that look from a scheduling standpoint? Like, how are you prioritizing you and Autumn, family, but what does that look like?
Yeah. People always ask the question, so what does your day look like? I mean, okay, well, there are some commons throughout every day. One is Autumn will do her 5-mile walks every morning, and I'll either do a workout, a swim, or a bike ride.
Mm-hmm.
I try to do it early in the morning. Then once the market opens up, I spend a little time there. I do my daily reading right around lunchtime. And then after that, it's just board meetings. It's whatever I've got on my schedule with young entrepreneurs or some mentoring. I still have about 4 or 5 people I love to mentor. They're not even in the accounting field, which has been surprising.
Yeah.
That people, you can bring a certain set of good questions to ask them from an accounting perspective because they're entrepreneurs.
That's right.
But it has nothing to do with the accounting field right now. So, and then just a ton of travel. So.
It sounds dreamy. Well, so I want to move into just some key takeaways, and that's just something we've missed already that you feel like I haven't been able to ask you. You feel good so far?
Sure.
I'm just curious if there's one thing that stands out to you that maybe somebody else could glean, that kind of you are so glad that you did, that put you kind of where you are today.
Yeah, Troy, just saying yes, being open to being uncomfortable. When Henry Lusky told me you should be a CPA, I said okay. I had no idea what I wanted to do in college, but the one thing I know I did want is I wanted to know how people made money and what that money make was like in different industries. Public accounting gave you that.
Yeah.
And then when you had the chance, I had the opportunity to leave the national firm EY and come to Whitley Penn. It was a yes. It was, I'm comfortable with me. I kind of know where my limits are. I know what I can and can't do, but I know what I want to do. And I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And saying yes to come to Dallas from Fort Worth.
Yeah.
Changed everything. It gave me the opportunity to kind of come over here and plant a flag and figure out with a small firm we acquired with 3 people, where can we take this thing? And the ride has been phenomenal.
Yeah.
So many years later. But I think just saying yes, being open to the invitation.
That's perfect.
It's been huge.
All right. So now somebody's on your team. What makes that person stand out to get noticed or elevated or promoted?
Get yourself known. Be a sponge. Be willing to take on the tougher projects. Say yes. I tell this to my kids, be the last to leave. If you're on an engagement, you're in the office, if you're the last to leave, make sure whoever's there, you're asking, is there anything else I can do to make your day better? Is there anything I can do to help you as we wind up this day? But I think being a sponge and offering yourself, that gets you noticed real quick.
Yep.
Very quick in my book.
Yep. So for all those that didn't do that before, it's too late. No.
Well, the other thing I would tell you is people knew.
Yeah.
And when I became a partner, I wanted to make sure that people understood we all live on schedules and timetables. So if you come into my office, bring a pad of paper and a pen. I don't want to repeat myself. If I'm having to repeat myself, then we've just lost some time. I've taken extra time from you. You've taken extra time from me. And Troy, I can't tell you all the years when people knew when they were coming to my office, somebody would tell them, dude, don't go in without a pen and paper. And if they came in without a pen and paper, I'm like, I've got some things I'm going to need you to write down.
Yeah.
And they'd go get a pen and paper. I'd offer it to them.
That's awesome. Well, now they could just walk in with an AI note taker.
That's right. They just turn on their phone and they're golden.
Jumped ahead. I don't need my pen and paper.
Right.
All right. So final question.
Yeah.
What is Felix excited about next?
Oh, gosh. I'm thankful that I have discretionary time to really put my time and my talents and resources, be good stewards with them. Mm-hmm. And I'm excited about the entrepreneurs I work with, the not-for-profits, the philanthropy, and my family. But I'm really excited about. I think I'm growing. I know I'm changing. Again, my past can refine me, but it won't define me. I think I was a really good CPA. I think I was okay.
Yep.
I'm not that anymore. And I'm evolving, I'm growing. And that's the part of me that the constant growth, it doesn't get boring, which is why my days aren't boring.
Right.
They're not open.
Yeah.
I'm always learning something new.
I love it. Well, I'm looking at you and I can tell you are different than the last time I saw you in a good way.
Thank you.
More relaxed, still the same Felix, still the same energy. But I can tell you're enjoying life. And I appreciate you taking time. You had to say yes. To come in here, and I cannot thank you enough.
Thanks for being patient with me to get me here.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks for coming.
You're welcome.
I'm Troy Ashby, and remember, people are more than their titles, and companies are more than their balance sheets. Follow Beyond the Ledger so you never miss an episode.